talent coming. One of you must go, and we'll see you later. You're a traitor.
Hey, faithfuls, welcome to Tally the Votes. The Traitors, Week 9. $10,000 has been added to the winner's pot, but it came at the price of a fallen angel. We're going to cover this week's episode, and to help do so is a fellow who is not only handsome up close, but handsome no matter the distance. Our lovely legal Fergus, Brian. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Oh, Jamie, I have so many thoughts.
So many negative thoughts. And our next co-host need not wear a headband nor a crown to encompass all things queen. A real royal in our midst, a proper wave to Her Majesty Christy.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
And speaking of queens, a warm welcome to the gentleman who is neither rook nor pawn, but a bishop of baloney, a knight of nonsense, a dude whose game is definitely under the radar. David, so happy to have you here, friend.
You know, I tried to pull my hair up in a little pebbles thing, but I couldn't put enough hair.
Yeah, it would be a real look. That would be a real risky look that I don't know if you have the power Alan has to walk into a room with that one or not.
I'm not that fabulous.
Well, I think we need to just jump in right away. Christy, I'm going to start with you. Let's get into that whole conversation in the turret. These two killers are at war. Danielle is pushing for Brittany to join, and we know how this is going to eventually end. Do you think that there was anything Carolyn could have done in that meeting to point or persuade Danielle away from Brittany and protect herself better?
No. Danielle seems to, now that there's like no one standing in her way in the turret, or so she thought. Well, we'll get to that too. She really has a game she wants to play, and she didn't really care whether Carolyn wanted to or not. But the gross thing about it was how she, Caroline being extremely honest and very logical about why it cannot be Brittany. And then her whole, oh, do you think we'll gang up on you? Godoy.
But obviously, yes.
And then when she tells her, like, I've made sacrifices before, I'll make sacrifices again, like she's playing the victim because she doesn't get her way and acting like Carolyn is being the bully to her and not being the reasonable one, but really it was so gaslighty. I was fuming.
This
already.
is mini gaslighting. The gaslighting comes later.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
We're all aware. If you
my
haven't watched
note,
the show yet,
my first note in this was, Jesus Christ, Danielle, climb down off the cross.
oh, I was already just disgusted
Absolutely.
by her in that turret, because if roles were reversed, she would not have backed down. She'd have been just like Caroline.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating to me that, like, when you have somebody who's a gamer, you're going to have the face that you use to try to convince people to do something, and then you're going to have the face and personality you use to the masses to try to sell an idea about somebody else. Like, you're going to play different versions of yourself throughout the game depending on who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. But like the fact that she gets them so blurred, it's like she doesn't put these different personalities in the right place. So standing in the turret with somebody who she's betrayed many times and telling her, no, let's bring in my number one ally who isn't on our side right now, and everything's gonna run super smooth and you and I are gonna be at the end. Come on. Like, and then to be like, what do you mean, and be so upset about it. It's like, I'm yelling at the TV, like, save that for Dylan. Don't do it to Carolyn. She knows your game. What are you trying to sell her? Yeah, it was
And the
frustrating.
other thing, and that she didn't get her way with Brittany. She didn't even have a backup plan of saying, like, oh, maybe okay, if not Brittany, let's recruit this person. She was singly focused on Brittany, and that's it. It was almost like, hey, Caroline, I'd rather be playing this game with Brittany. What do you think? Should we ask her to play with us?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
might as well have just said
It was
that 'cause
like-
that's what she meant.
It was like
It's-
Carolyn's mom was friends with Danielle's mom, and that's the only reason why Carolyn was allowed at the
Reason they're playing.
sleepover. But the entire time, she really wanted Brittany there.
Because Brittany's the cool girl.
But gang, hold on. Danielle's 20 steps ahead of us, okay?
Oh my god.
She's 20 steps ahead. She's a
got it
natural
figured out.
strategist
Figured
thinking
out.
20 steps ahead. So, I mean, I understand why we don't understand what she's doing
Yeah, she's-
because she's brilliant.
So
Because
next
she's-
level.
Super far ahead of us.
I mean,
And then they go down the list and say,
hey,
well,
before you move Paul off your point, your question was, could Danielle have done something? And I think the mistake she
could
made,
Carolyn have
or
done
Caroline had done
Mhm.
something, and the mistake she made was saying no Brittany, and that was it. She did what she should have done is said no Brittany, but I think we should bring on Dylan, and here's why. So she came off as very confrontational, and it was very much a brinkmanship move. She didn't give Danielle an alternative. So
That's true.
at the end of it, Danielle said, "Fine, we'll just kill somebody," you know. And
Well-
so I do think Caroline, you not for a minute, Rob wouldn't say no Brittany and then just stand there and not. You know,
True.
I think she needed to present an alternative. And when we get later in it, she kind of did the same thing later at the round table.
I think that her other option should have been no. Why would we recruit right now? It's just the two of us. It's better for us to take another number out that helps us get closer to the end. And then it doesn't even have to be a recruit because no, we're not recruiting. This is silly. We should be killing someone.
yeah,
Does
it's
that make
sense?
maybe the option, maybe the best option in that moment would be, no, we're not going to recruit anybody because of all the reasons you said.
Right.
But who do we frame? We got to figure out who we're going to murder, and then who are we going to frame? Who are we setting up as the next victim of being called out a traitor? Set those steps into motion. Then you're working together as a team. But I do want to say that as soon as Tiffany, as soon as the list starts going through, the first person, because this is going to come back later as one of the reasons why I feel like Carolyn had an opportunity to save herself but didn't. Who's the very first person Danielle mentions to kill?
To kill?
Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan. And she goes, and Carolyn says, no. And Danielle's like, Carolyn. This is something that I feel like later on, Carolyn should have used to counter but you said Brittany's name. Well, you said Dylan's name.
Okay.
Because the big thing with Carolyn is she doesn't like to lie. And Danielle's willing to lie a bit for her game. Carolyn doesn't like to lie. She's not very good at it. We've seen her try, and she's actually terrible at it.
She said it.
She was given
This
this,
part.
and it wasn't a lie. She could have easily just said, you said Dylan's name.
I want to go with Jamie 100% here. Dylan now is the one they should have taken out. And at that table, you remove his vote, throw in Sam. Sam's pretty shrewd and proved that last episode.
Oh, Sam, we hardly knew thee.
But Dylan's obviously playing a social game.
He's playing a pretty good game.
He is, but like he to me was a little bit weak in this episode. He stepped back and really wasn't a leader. And what did Frank say here? Danielle is not winning. The episode confirmed to me
that most left in
the if Danielle
we have to read,
wins,
Brian, we have to read it because when it goes out as a podcast.
Okay, go ahead.
You
David,
go ahead and
I'm
read
sorry.
it.
Okay, Frank opines Danielle is not winning. This episode confirmed to me that most left in the game suspects that Danielle is the known traitor and keeping her for that reason, and they just needed to out her traitor partner.
That's a solid theory, Frank.
Yep.
I would agree with that, except I would have put in all caps, not winning. She better not win, y'all. She better not win.
With the hashtag and everything.
Jamie, you're gonna have to pick, a new person, aren't you?
A new loser.
Oh, I have this meme that I made.
Yeah,
and
he did.
it's a guy sipping a martini at the Versace Mansion pool. And it's actually a friend of mine, but it looks like a meme. And I put that moment when you realize Jamie's winner pick is going home, and I sent it to her. It was hilarious.
Brutal. It's hilarious, David.
wait.
Hilarious.
Okay, so later,
It's hilarious to me. I didn't care
later
if you
you're
found
gonna
it
have to
funny.
tell me the story of how your friend got in the mansion. Okay, we'll talk about that
Oh, you
later
can go.
off-
It's a
off-
restaurant now.
Oh, they opened it as a restaurant. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
there we go. See, that story's not nearly as interesting as you thought it was going to. David, we're going to allow you 40 minutes of podcast time to
I always
make up
wanted
a
to go
new
in there.
story in your head, and then you can tell us when we're done recording. I think you need a second chance at that. Okay, David. Let's go to breakfast. So Gabby mentions that she thinks the traitor could be Danielle, and again, because Carolyn doesn't like to lie, she'll only lay out there what's kind of already there. She doesn't push that much. And maybe that was a missed opportunity to use Gabby. She does talk about needing the numbers. This is where her her survivor game comes in and saying, I need to know that I have the numbers before I mention her name at the round table. I don't know. Do you think that rather than just being like one vote for her, she could have utilized Gabby further?
She had the opportunity to say, I totally agree with you, but I'm afraid to come after her because I know she's going to come after me hard. So you and I should work together and try to get her. I think, that's kind of how these shows work, is the alliances and the mini alliances.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you get somebody else to bring the name up at round table, not
Right.
you, Caroline, not you, honey.
Well, and this was an interesting episode, I felt, to kind of like really shake out where the actual relationships are in the house. Because with this few people, you would have thought there would have been more like crossover conversations, but our groups kind of just stayed in their own little groups. So there was one little moment where Gabby and Dylan, talked briefly, but you didn't see Gabby go, whispering to Ivar or what have you. So you can see where the division in the groups are. But yeah, I feel like maybe Gabby should have been used if she knew she had Gabby's vote, she felt good about Gabby. I feel like if she would have gone with Gabby to talk to Dylan or with Gabby to talk to Ivar, having multiple people saying the same thing may have gotten her the numbers she was afraid she wasn't going to get. Or maybe Carolyn did have a good read on the house that we don't see because we're watching editing, and she knew she probably didn't have the numbers or had reasons to worry about it.
I don't know. It looked what we were seeing though. It looked like whether she knew it or not, she could have had the numbers had it gone in a different way.
Well,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The problem is there were coalitions that weren't built at that during those conversations before the mission and after, and Dylan said, kudos to Dylan. He's on my shit list a little bit, but he does say he thinks someone that trusts him is a traitor or he'd be dead by now.
Yes.
Which is pretty astute, but also puzzling, and I'll go into that later. But Dylan is the only one that's working multiple groups here. He goes to Carolyn, and is talking to people to try to suss things out. They have their individual moment where Danielle walks in, and Carolyn's playing with too much honor, really.
Mm-hmm.
She's dropping hints and trying to do it. She's not being cutthroat enough. And, by the time it gets to the table, Danielle had a better plan at the table. I mean,
At
Right.
the table, but she was late to act like she right before when she finds out someone had said that Caroline was saying her name, she had been setting it all up to take Caroline down the whole episode, and then it was like, oh, she said my name. You were already going to do that. Don't even.
Well,
pretend.
that's a savvy move, though. That's right out
That's
of
fine.
Survivor.
That's
You know
fine.
who you want. You find a reason, and then you can rationalize your bad
Well,
behavior.
you know what? This isn't even just Survivor. That is any sort of competition or life situation where a group has to push one member out of the group. If it's a band and they have to get a new drummer, they're going to come up with dumb reasons that they don't like the guy just to get rid of him. It's what we do to compensate the feeling of guilt. And Danielle
That's true.
uses that on an extreme, and does it so that it's like that person's done something to me, and in this situation is the exact same thing.
But
um
Danielle laid the trap of
yes,
saying, she went around and has been saying, you ever notice it's the person who attacks that's the
yes,
traitor?
and that was kudos to her where they are deserved. Just these little tiny mentions of things, you look at it, it's annoying because we're already irritated by some of the theatrics that we're getting from Danielle, but that is the exact same kind of gameplay that Rob would do. That's the same kind of gameplay that
Except
Sandra
it
would
is
do.
gameplay wise, but her over like acting of it, like I
Yes.
don't know how she can make her overacting any more over the top unless she like physically wets herself in front of people because she's acting so scared and shaking and
I
doing all
feel like
these
she
things, and it's
may
like
have wet herself at one point because it was like so extreme.
it's like
And
geez.
and Brian, I'm glad that you brought up the this thing with Dylan, because Dylan does say, which I giggled. I had to pause and laugh because we've been saying it for weeks with Dylan. It's like, oh my God, somebody I trust is the traitor. Well, duh. Like, you would have been gone a long time
But
ago.
it did feel like at the beginning of the episode, it did feel like he was more leaning toward Danielle being that of those two.
Well, and that's the way we left the last episode, was him going, it's Danielle, So I'm sure that there
He
was.
needs to grow a backbone and trust his instincts. I'm just saying.
You know what? Yes, but I kind of think in this episode he shook off some of the Derekisms, and I
Okay.
think he's trying to go back to trusting his instinct, and I think that's why he jumped from Danielle to Carolyn. That being said, it's hilarious to me that he's like, I have to choose between one or the other, and it's like,
No, you don't.
dude, they're both
Tom,
traitors.
Yeah,
Tom,
yeah.
yeah, but Tom goes, no, you don't. Dolores.
Yes, it's so great.
Tom
Well,
Brady doesn't like Dolores.
let's. I wish we'd have made a counter. If we would have made a counter, David, you could do a pop in right now where we could say, times Danielle's cried because she cries with Brittany. Her and Brittany, now they're best buds, and oh, my girl and my girl Brittany, and it's just,
Gross.
it's gross. Like, it's
Well,
really
the
gross.
the good news is, knowing Brittany like I do, she'll cut her throat if she can.
No, she won't. She is not going to
Well-
cut her throat. She's absolutely not going to cut her throat. Not after the victimization of the last year post reindeer games. She's going to
Well-
let her walk right into the end and win. She is not going to cut Danielle Reyes a second time publicly.
I hope she does, because I sent you that Insta or that reel or whatever it was, TikTok. I don't know,
Oh,
one of those things.
I mean, girl,
where she
I'm
literally
hoping.
is like, it was a stupid game where it was moderated by elves, and we had to save the children, the toys for the children of the world.
I
And
mean,
we
it
were
had
in the-
Derek X dressed up as an elf, and it's
and we were
taken
in
so
the
seriously.
peppermint forest, and this is what she's mad about. It was this game, and I did what she would have done. It was so stupid. I don't know.
It was a pretty amusing little interview. Speaking of interviews, we did read an exit interview. I think all of us read it, with Carolyn talking about how she felt about how things went, and she was kind of like brutally honest about how she felt of some of the people in the house. Breaking news: she's not a big fan of Danielle's. But there was one little thing that I read in there, and I don't know if maybe I misread it or if you guys caught it, but did it sound like to you that at this point in the game, Brittany already knows Danielle is a traitor?
Well, it sounded like Brittany had suspicions, But also in reading the extracurricular stuff, I was kind of surprised to see that Brittany felt pretty isolated. Like she doesn't really have a crew. And I think that's, made her cling closer to Danielle. So it could be that. And it's kind of surprising. I thought Brittany would find a group and be more a part of a group, but she sort of
I would
seems
too.
to be
I think
staying back.
I think she would have had a group, Brian, but I think what ended up happening is who she assumed her group would be likely, alumni from Big Brother. And Derek turned on her so fast and said it's Brittany. Because the
What do you
idea
do?
is that knowing Brittany's like past game and her personality and stuff, it seems like the people she would have lined with would have been Danielle, had Danielle been cool with it,
Right.
Derek, Dylan, maybe Wes. Like that seems like a Brittany centric alliance.
But like Derek immediately accuses her, and Danielle's still acting all butthurt at the beginning. So she's probably like,
She's like,
I got nobody. Okay.
well, and I know
Cool.
it's
guess
really
I'll just wear
difficult.
this headband.
Carolyn really wanted to work with Brittany a lot, and she put in some work to try to get Brittany on her side. But then as soon as she started getting comfortable with Danielle again, she knew she had lost her, which is really unfortunate because that's the alliance I wanted all year, guys.
Me
Like
too.
forever. That's all I wanted. So we've got
Me
another
too.
comment here. Will you go ahead and read that, David?
Sure. Frank says Dylan knows for sure it's Danielle and decided to vote Caroline because his ally confirms Caroline is the unsuspecting traitor. Dylan is keeping Danielle in his pocket after that realization.
I hope you're
I don't
right,
think he's
Frank.
alone in that. I think more than
Dude.
he has that sussed out.
Ivar seemed to have it all down. It was like, why can't Ivar get people to vote with him?
Well, Ivar's not allowed to talk.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. And
Danielle
I
was
honestly,
awful to him.
I have some Ivar notes that we'll come to in a minute because
Okay.
I think it is important that we kind of give him a moment. And but first and foremost, can we please go back to Alan's weird lollipop guild outfit?
Okay. So he
Please?
shows up. He shows up to tell him about who is out, right? And that outfit was plaid and sequined and bell-bottom knickers.
It looked like
It was like
a
bell-bottom,
picnic
but it
blanket.
wasn't. They weren't long pants. They were like culottes, but not culottes. But like bell bottoms, but not bell bottoms. It was very weird mishmash. And then he had that.
It was like a
Just a little-
Cupid doll kind of thing. Like it was a look. Like I said, I don't think there's another human being in the world that would have been able to get away with it other than Alan.
But you're right. I thought it was like this whole episode, his outfits looked like he had gotten them from the dolls that were in the house last week. He looked, they were little doll clothes.
At first I was like, oh, I don't know if you guys listen to like the phrasing that he uses, he'll have his whole, saying goodbye to the person who was murdered, throw down the picture frame, and then he'll say something. And those things usually have some kind of reference to the upcoming
Flip-flop.
challenge. And I was trying to kind of like go, oh, okay, what is he? And he was talking about fairy tales. And I thought maybe we're doing like an Alice in Wonderland thing. And I knew that the chessboard was going to happen. So
That would
when
make
they
sense.
arrived at the set and it wasn't Alice in Wonderland, I was a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie. But my disappointment was short-lived because then the man shows up with a headband, crown,
Yeah.
and chess pieces.
He
and
was
I
busy
couldn't
with
stay
that
mad.
glue gun, man. That glue gun was fierce. He had alternated them white and black pieces. He had all these different, yeah.
I just don't know how you could be angry at anything when somebody is talking to you with that headband on.
It was the most creative use of chess pieces in a headpiece since the community paintball episode with the chess club.
Nice callback. So we've got Kate in Poverty shows up dressed as queens.
Poverty and someone who shouldn't even had been showing up there because they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
queen of this game.
But
Sorry.
you know
Sorry,
what?
Kate.
I am going to give Kate credit where credit is due. And she says to Alan, don't ask me. I was terrible at this game. Amen, sister.
Oh,
At least
so
you
at least
know
she's
your
self-aware?
weakness.
Yeah.
Yes. She's good at sitting there in a beautiful dress and having snarky comments. And she's a wonderful narrator to the shenanigans that are in front of her, but maybe
I
not.
like when
a
they were
gamer.
summoning Fergus for more wine. For
Yes.
Oh,
wine,
yes.
Fergus.
But their whole appearance there was kind of like pointless, was it not?
Yeah.
It's fan
Yeah,
service.
yeah,
They didn't play any
exactly.
part of the game. It wasn't like
No.
they were playing some live chess game where one was making the one moves and one was making the others, or they weren't even involved. They just sat there and commented. Which
And looked
again,
fancy.
it's like the Muppet Show, right? You got to have two people off to the side making snarky
Gotta have some
comments.
hecklers.
I'm for it, but
See, I feel like personally, I feel like they were put on the show because they needed to deliver the message that we had already called Dylan out as this season's Pete the Pilot. So I'm glad that they pinned that one for us. Thanks, ladies. Job well done.
they're
Well,
a quick study, aren't they?
And we need to point out that the coming attractions last week did in fact spoil the fact that Sam was going home.
Yeah.
Because the chessboard did in fact
Well,
not have his name on it.
Didn't have him on there.
In all that, I mean, be no surprise to any of you guys, I completely forgot it was Sam, and for some reason in my head I was remembering that it was Tom's name that wasn't on the board. So I actually double psyched myself out, and I was still surprised that it was Tom.
Okay.
No, we knew. I don't know.
But
Whatever.
okay, speaking of Tom, this guy, like,
This
guy. I am like,
He's nuts.
on one hand, it's just like, oh my gosh, with this guy. But on the other hand, I'm just delighted that he is there because he never lets me down at any challenge. And okay, David, serious question. Can one be both the leader of the pack and a lone wolf?
No.
Unless you're Tom Sandoval, because clearly.
Unless, or you're someone who's like multiple personalities or something, the lone wolf, but also you are the leader of your own personal pack. I don't know.
the pack of one.
And he's also the guy playing the quietest game.
Yeah, he's
He's the
Tom
mouse
wants to
be
too.
all things to all people.
Sneaky.
Bless him.
sneaky snook. So okay, so there's a series of questions that are asked, and this is a really great challenge for the faithfuls to kind of get into the mind of the traitors if it's done right. Because I mean, if you're good at this, you could see what that is and you can manipulate it to keep them off your scent. Danielle realized, Carolyn, I think she wanted to realize, but I also think Carolyn, bless her, in all of her absolute loveliness and silliness and seriousness and everything about the woman. But I do truly believe that Carolyn is far more convinced that people don't listen to her than anyone else is.
True. Yeah.
But I don't think it's that people don't listen to her. I just don't think she follows through on an argument. I don't think that she stands or says her argument or her piece in necessarily in a way that is like putting a period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, she says it and then immediately loses the thread, and so do they, and they move on to the next topic.
Yes. Right? Well, and it came up a couple of times in this, and I hated seeing Danielle look smug about the whole thing. Ugh. But she saw where Carolyn was dropping the ball, like right on her own feet. And
but wasn't
so
that
did Dylan.
happening? But wasn't that happening because Carolyn was being more vocal? She's usually not quite that vocal in the group.
There is some irony to this.
She kind of stepped forward. Carolyn has her own idea in her head, right? She wants to point the finger at Danielle. And so she kind of changes her gameplay by speaking more at that. And she shouldn't. So I think if she hadn't have done that, if she'd been more her normal, like quieter self, she might not look so suspicious at that game.
It was a little bit different for her character. So there is that. It got the, like I said, it got the attention of Dylan, who had, as far as we know, was going into this believing that it was Danielle that he was going to need to keep his eyes on more than anything. It was a really frustrating. It was really frustrating to watch. Um, I don't know at what point Carolyn really realized, like, oh no. She did have, I mean, she did at some point in the game, but I'm curious to know, like, how much she said that we didn't see before she caught on that she just pulled the veil down.
Ooh. And then afterwards, when they're in the car, and Danielle is like, "You feel safe, right? You feel safe." And just like, what?
Why are you being so weird?
Why, Danielle? It was like Danielle wanted to put it out there, like, "Oh, Caroline feels so safe because she knows she's not going to get murdered, right?"
Yes.
But at the same
So
time, Caroline could have thrown up, and she doesn't. She doesn't volley it back because
right.
it could be like,
And I think that's what
no.
I mean. Yeah, when I say yes, I do think people don't suspect her because sometimes they just don't listen because she does have so many like goofy moments, but I think some of those goofy moments aren't goofy moments. She just doesn't defend herself. Because if we were to take that and put that in anybody else except for maybe Ivar, I feel like if it was Tom, if it was Gabby, if it was Dolores, anybody else sitting there and Danielle started kind of saying these things, they would have been like,
Sierra.
"Oh, wait, excuse me? Excuse me?" You know? Yeah, I think that Carolyn maybe should take some training from Sierra on like how to absolutely
Like,
be
stand up for
heard.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make my point.
I
I'm gonna stand here.
I sort of agree, but I also disagree on another level because this group absolutely votes out the people that fight for themselves.
That's true. You're
Sierra
not
fought
wrong.
for
You're
herself
not wrong.
and was a unanimous vote.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. And
this
Nikki,
group is a
poor
bunch of
Nikki.
cowards. It's a bunch of cowards, and we'll get there later. But I
I
I,
think we're about there.
I want to talk about one thing that happened here, okay? And that is
Is it
when
time?
when
Is it
Caroline.
time?
No, no,
Is it
no.
time?
It's
Is it
no,
time?
no. It's not time. We'll
Oh.
do it at the round table.
All right.
But
I didn't figure
like,
this would be it.
But when they're there, the only thing Danielle did that was brilliant, she didn't go into this thing planned, but she saw Carolyn step up and start to melt down. And the problem with Carolyn is, as I see it, if you enter into open combat with her, she will defend herself, but she's not comfortable in that.
There you go. There it is. Yeah.
And so Danielle
Confident in
let
it.
her do that. And, Carolyn said, like, her mind was just racing. Like, she was racing. And as somebody who has ADHD, obviously, like, she probably was controlling more things from coming out of her mouth, which leads ultimately at the round table to a particularly despicable thing Danielle does that I'll get to later. But Danielle made a good play. I did think it was interesting. Dylan seems to take notice here. But I also thought Carolyn missed something at this game, and that is Tom defended her.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't work that angle before the round table to go to Tom and say, "Hey, you defended me. If somebody comes after me, will you defend me?" Or will
Hey,
you,
if you help me vote for Danielle this week, I'll help you vote for
vote for Dolores next week?
next week.
Yes, like you.
Because he is so.
I think he would have loved that because, like, let's be serious. Tom just wants to be in on the plan.
He wants to be
You know?
right.
And I feel like he's one of those people, if you just go, here's the plan, tell him everything you need to do, and then make him think that it was his idea, it'll go without a hitch. It'll be great. Everything
Right.
will work out
Or
the
at
way you
least
need
let
it
him think
to.
it was 50-50, right?
Or,
Yeah.
or at least say, like, if somebody comes at me this week at the round table and nobody comes at you at the round table, vote with me, and next week we'll get whoever you want out. And because Dolores and Tom don't go at each other, at least we didn't see it. They didn't show it.
Do they have some sort of like secret deal before they came into the house that they would just always vote for each other so that they would never be the target of the traitors?
I think wherever it is that they're staying, like their rooms must like share a wall.
Oh
And, like,
my God.
And she's like, quit taking baths and playing with your rubber ducky, Tom.
So sick of
I'm
it.
trying to go to bed.
She's like, oh my God, what is even that music he's in there listening to? Oh, stop. He's so
Now he thinks he
annoying.
can sing, and he's singing all night.
Oh, I love it.
Da-da-da, da-da-da,
I love it.
da-da-da.
And to any of our listeners, if you have not seen the video reel of Tom playing trumpet, I beg of you. I beg of you. Go find it.
Search it.
Didn't you post
best.
it on our Facebook page?
I may have put it on our Facebook page. It's an easy place to go find it. It is like
That would be convenient, wouldn't it?
it's delightful.
Mm,
Like I can't.
It
There's no
is.
other way to
It's a
describe.
delight.
And
The
Brittany
unveiled
playing
joy.
piano to Tom singing. Also, there's another good video. There's lots of good Tom crooning videos that are out there that are amusing.
Yeah,
Good on you, Tom.
the fella does amuse, if nothing else.
I
Okay.
think too. I think too. There's something to the idea that people fall in love with how they want things to go, and for whatever reason, Tom wants Dolores, and Dolores wants Tom out, and they don't have the EQ to go. The whole house is going somewhere else. Just throw a
Right.
vote on one of them because you're throwing away your vote every week, and and you see it in these reality shows. They have this idea of what the plan is, and they're not flexible.
But
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Tom, I could see Tom continuing to put Dolores' her name down. But I feel like Dolores, no matter how bored she is with this game at this point, is with it enough to be like, I'm gonna put down Danielle's name or Carolyn's name. Like, what?
Because Tom has already figured out before he's even gone in there who he's writing his name down. Like, I don't think he's even listening to any of the arguments at all. Because he's like, nope, but dude, okay, that's fine. You want to write down Dolores, but you're not making an argument for Dolores either. So no one can join you. So I don't know exactly
You know what?
you're doing.
I
It's
think
not
that-
cumulative. It's not like, oh,
Mm-mm.
Dolores has 5 votes because I voted for her every single episode, No,
I think
it doesn't
that
work
Tom.
that way.
I think that Tom Sandoval might have been one of those toddlers that required a leash when walking in public.
And so he's there. He thinks he's going to vote for Dolores, right? He's there. There's clearly, unless that round table went way more and they edited a whole bunch out that we didn't see, there's clearly 2 people running the conversation. If you're still sitting there and you're not listening to either one, neither one of them is making a
You're
compelling
like, gosh darn it,
argument
I'm
for
going to
you.
vote Dolores, and she's going to go home.
Why would you vote for Dolores? Especially if you're watching that and you think one of them is suspicious, but the other one you're like, no way, which is I think how he was feeling about Danielle. I mean, excuse me, about Caroline. Why not vote for Danielle?
Some people just like to vote and throw their vote away. I don't know why. Not even
is
beyond this.
true. We
Even
do know
beyond this
to be
game.
true.
And that's all I'm going to say about
in the
that.
real-
Some people just
in the
like to
real
throw
world.
their vote away.
Some people are just a real thorn in your side. I'm just
That's
saying.
right. That's right.
All right. While we
Well,
sit here
sometimes
and
you
ponder,
just get sick of winning, is all I got to say on that point.
Oh,
while
yeah.
we sit here and try to ponder,
Okay, Danielle.
why Tom and Dolores have it out for each other, we're gonna go ahead and take a 7-second break for commercials.
Time for
So hang
commercial.
tight.
Ooh.
All right. I think we are good to go. And I think that it is important we start to address a
The
problem
main
within,
event.
a problem within the faithfuls. And it's a frustration for me. And that frustration's name is Ivar. Ivar says that he's suspicious of Danielle. He said it a few times. Oh, one of the traitors is a female. There's 2 females. Danielle. Yes, very good. Very good, Ivar. You're right. Then he tells Danielle he's suspicious of her. Bad, Ivar. Not good. But then the real thing is somehow Danielle manages to convince him easily
Mm-hmm.
that she's a faithful based on an inaccurate comparison of Columbo What? What the hell transpired in that conversation?
How many people on that show even ever saw Columbo?
Well, Ivar
Ivar
did.
said he has.
Well, Ivar's old. Yeah.
She's trying really hard to find a touchstone between herself and her experience and Mr. Royalty, living in England, older
Well,
gentleman.
I mean, like,
what do we have in common?
I'm sorry, but I'm not like a Columbo like aficionado. But I've seen quite a few episodes, and I can't say that I ever recall him being a bumbling idiot that nobody knew he would be able to solve a mystery because he was a bumbling idiot.
The comparison falls down at the end of Columbo. It shows he was a genius all along. And how many round tables has Carolyn been a genius at the end of, right?
0.
That she nailed it. And let me just say that Columbo thing, they can go ahead and just get the Peter Falk out of here with that, okay? That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It made me so upset too. Also, like, does he realize he's in a game? Like, I just don't.
Well,
I think
first
that
of all-
Brittany is right. I think Brittany is absolutely right when she says that Ivar is just there to let them know when tea is served, because you do not go to the person you're suspicious of being a traitor and being like, "Can you convince me that you're not a traitor?"
Well, unless you want to look them in the eye and see how they react when you tell them point blank you think it's them.
Because royalty, in dealing with common people, really know that they can read the truth of common people because they're around them
They're
so
very
much.
down to earth.
They're down to earth.
I'm going to stick up for Ivor because he is my winner's pick.
Shocker.
But granted, it's the
Shocker.
stupidest pick ever done on Earth, but I'll probably win because of it.
We don't know.
But he had something to say at the round table, and Danielle shouted him down and wouldn't let him get a sentence out, and that was bullshit.
Yep.
But you know
He
what?
still
You know what?
voted with her.
You've got 1,000 years of royal history of kings and important people. Grow a set of balls and say something.
Yep.
Stand up
Come
for
on,
yourself.
Ivar. Spill
Well, then
your tea.
can't we say the same thing about Carolyn?
Carolyn
just
talks
did.
more than Ivor ever did. Ever
But
did.
I also-
There's an unfair
I don't think she
framing on
effectively
Carolyn that I'll
defended
talk
herself.
to.
But
There's not, but I'll get to that in a minute. But
Ivor is
Ivor,
the-
talk.
Ivor, you can go. Ivor, be quiet. The grown-ups are talking. Okay.
Yes. He's spineless.
But here's the thing: if he already thinks it's Danielle, and he's already thought this for a little bit, he's suspicious of her for a while. He goes to the round table. She already knows he's suspicious of her, and then she goes there, and I think that we can see, all of us, that her back and forth debating with Caroline was more the way Rob would roll over people.
Yes.
Right? She was extremely confident, extremely cocky, and why didn't Ivor not go that? Yep.
Well, why didn't
That's
somebody
it.
say, you've been saying all day that the traitor's aggressive and you're the most aggressive
Yeah.
person by far at
You're
the
the one who's
table?
come in here and had
Yep.
clearly you've been practicing all the speeches. She hasn't.
Well-
It's clear she's not been practicing. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, David, cue the graphic. It's time.
Oh,
Good.
the time has come.
Okay.
We need. Okay.
You know what we
Th-
need? We need Brian Rant music.
There are
we have to call our
two-
music guy.
There are two things that really made me angry. One is Carolyn made the best point she made, but she made it privately to Dylan when she said to him, "If Boston Rob was telling you this, would you listen?"
Yes.
And it touched him, and he realized that. She should have said that at the table. But that was a good point. But shame on Dylan for forgetting that. But here's what sucks about what happened to Carolyn. Okay, Danielle used the way Carolyn is against her and belittled her and said, well, she's a Columbo. She must be an evil genius. And look, I'm sorry, but like being gaslit about who you are as a person. Like,
Yes. There were some personal attacks beyond the game. Yeah.
She personally attacked her for the way that she acts and saying it's all an act.
Her authentic self.
Yes,
Saying that she wasn't authentic.
She wasn't authentic. That you're not being authentic. You're not being authentic. what Carolyn should have said is said, "Oh, as opposed to crying and shaking every time's happening." But
That,
talking to me right
Yes.
now, you're not. But see, Carolyn is so gaslit and so angry, she can't turn it back on Danielle. What Danielle did was despicable, and then after that, to collapse into a convulsing thing on the floor made me sick. Made
Same.
me sick.
Same.
If I see her convulse one more time, they need to medevac her ass out of there because she's not physically able to. Hey, you know, apparently, you know, she's convulsing. We need to get her medically cleared to stay on this show because it's so impossible for her to do anything without crying or collapsing. But you know, the whole time she went at Carolyn, not a tear, didn't seem nervous, didn't care. She stayed cool, provoked Carolyn, and accused her of being a liar, said she wasn't authentic, said she was, and then she said she's Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm sorry, but like she basically said, you are different than the rest of us.
You're mentally disabled.
Yes, something's wrong with you. And I don't blame Carolyn for getting pissed. I wish she'd have fought back, but that was some bullshit. And if I swear to God, if she wins, we riot. If she wins, we riot.
I have to say that if
Agreed.
I was there's I mean, well, you know, I'm going to naturally want to defend Carolyn anyway because I already know her, I already like her, I already relate to her in a lot of ways. But
Because she is authentic.
right. And if it was and it could have been anybody, but it could have been anybody at the table. When that punch down came out, the fact that the rest of them didn't go, whoa, the way that they did Tom when he said girls were more likely to cheat, he just slipped up, you know? And to quote Brian, kudos to Tom because he defended Carolyn and said, she's never been aggressive. I think you're wrong. He tried to defend
Dolores.
her, not so much in the game of Traitors. He was trying to defend her as a buddy, as a pal.
But a real defense would have been, she's never been aggressive, and boy, are you aggressive right now.
Yeah,
that would have been devastating.
Right,
but you know what else? You know what else? She was so othered that when it was over, nobody there seemed sad except Danielle. All the other times people were like, oh man, like that's sad. Nobody was sad. They othered her. They voted her out. And there was no, imagine all the time they've spent together. Do you know what they cut out of the episode? Do you know what she said after that?
Yes,
Did you read
I do.
They cut this out because you know what she said? After what she said, which really touched me in the...
I didn't like being a traitor. Basically, it was really hard being a traitor.
Yes. She said, I hate you all, and left.
Yeah.
She said, I hate you all.
She was really
made
hurt.
To feel like a piece of crap by the way they did her, and it was wrong.
She didn't do that on Survivor.
No.
And the screwed up thing about this is the person who did that to her, that treated her so horribly and like punched down at her,
is the one running around crying about Brittany.
Yep.
So can I have a moment to rant myself because
hang on, I have graphics for it.
But before Jamie rants, I want to add this before I forget.
Yes.
I just want to say to you all who watch all these other shows, I felt vindicated because Carolyn also said in that interview that this game was harder than Survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fast and taxing. I am sure that it was mentally
new Survivor, that's really not difficult.
Well, now you got him.
Now, Jamie, the runway is yours. Strut your stuff.
Okay, so listen, I'm going to address this as if Danielle was in the room because I ain't going to talk about her behind her back. I'm addressing this as if she's in the room.
Hey, if you're in the chat, Danielle, jump on in. Yeah, sure.
Danielle Reyes, you might be considered a Big Brother legend, and I've been watching for all these years. And in the past, you've played your butt off. You've owned your game, your moves. Got it. You were in reindeer games, which, was the most non-serious game that CBS has ever aired in the last 10 years, where Brittany had to make a quick game move, which was the right move, that ended up with you getting booted. Now, as someone who has felt betrayal before, I'm sure that it hurt, but it wasn't real life. It was a game, and it was a game move by a person who has never taken herself or these games any more seriously than a healthy human adult should ever take them. You held a grudge. More than that, you fell into a victimhood, and that victimhood was loud and it was public. You felt victimized. Now we're going to fast forward to Traitors. You had 2 people in this game that were loyal to you. 3 basically that were loyal to you. You cut them all. And your overdramatic tears would be great, and your inability to trust would be fine, and your snarky comments would be accepted. But you have forgotten the most important part of being a villain and being the kind of villain people root for, and that is owning it. Own your villainhood. Be the bad guy in the game. Somebody like Wes does it, and it's excellent. It's just part of the game. Nobody takes it too personally because he knows he's playing a character, and it makes it fun. No tears, no shaking, no I'm the good guy. Just own it. Own your moves. Own being a villain. At the round table, you looked another woman in the eye, straight to her face. A woman who has been in relationships that included domestic abuse and gaslighting. And you betrayed this woman again and again. Again, it's a game. But you act like you were victimized. And then you said, and this is a quote, you act silly and dumb. You Forrest Gump it a lot. Danielle, we know what you just insinuated. What year is this? Seriously. I'm not mad that Carolyn got banished. I'm pretty bummed out, but I'm not mad that she got banished. I'm mad that it was in the hands of someone who would publicly play a victim of betrayal about a game and then disrespect a grown woman. And I'm mad that it happened while you were wearing that stupid hat. And that's that. If you want to play a mean game, play it. Just own it. Just own it. It is the number one thing that drives me insane.
Don't pretend you're not.
Do you know what makes her a villain you can't root for? It's when you attack somebody for something they can't control. It's the equivalent of saying, oh, well, you know, you're a certain race, so I think this of you. Or, hey, like, you know, you're overweight, so I think this of you. Or, hey, you're short, so I think this of you. Like, there's no doubt if you lived in that castle that that is who she was, that that's how she is. You can watch her social media. To attack the core of who she was and make her less and other her, to that was despicable. And it's why I don't care if I will never root for her for anything ever again. I wish Sierra would have made it and Danielle would have went home.
You wish Boston Rob was here instead of her.
Well,
at least he knows how to be nice.
I'll say this. Boston Rob, when he takes somebody apart, doesn't say like, hey, this is what you are. You're a gump.
Right.
You're a Columbo.
Right.
Boston Rob would say, you do sus things, and here's the things I've seen.
And actions.
Yes.
And things people have said.
It stays within the game. When he says things, it stays within the game. When Brittany says things, it stays within the game. That's the thing. You can stay within the game and tear somebody a new one. You can do that. But if you, like you said, is what do we teach our kids about being a bully? It's like if you don't comment on things that somebody can't fix in 15 minutes. You just don't.
And David,
I'm gonna.
You got mine ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to say this: I bet they got Carolyn out of there for fear that she was so angry something might happen. And I'm just going to say this: as a guy, had another guy attack something about a guy that way, I'm not sure it wouldn't have gotten really ugly.
Gotten a few threats of some physical retaliation around the
yes.
table.
Say it
Now-
to my face.
Exactly. Now, Christy, look at this. I've infected the group. It's rants. Christy,
I know.
Christy,
rant.
I have your
Yes.
graphics ready.
No, I'm
Rant
so
away.
kidding. I don't really.
Christy is a bit
peeved. So the two things about this is that Danielle, this entire game, has it's like the death by 1,000 cuts is what she did to Caroline. She has been doing it the entire game. She has been actively doing things to put it in people's heads. She was doing it within the turret as if is this just she's just taking up space in the turret, like how her and Rob were like planning things, and her and Bob too, like
Yep.
they didn't even listen to her. Okay, for her to then this episode turn it around and act like, oh, Caroline, you don't trust me, I have to take you out. Girl, stop playing. You were doing it the entire time. You're mad because Caroline recognized it and didn't just suck it up and trust you again. There was no reason to trust you. You are untrustworthy.
Yep.
Okay. You guys, David, this is another girls' alliance that should have been an alliance that couldn't happen, and it's all Danielle's fault. Okay.
Sure is.
Number one.
99%.
Number two.
Sure is. And this was an alliance that included Bob, the flippin' drag queen. It
Absolutely.
could have been
Epic.
fantastic. Yes, but no.
Because she discounted Caroline immediately. She sized her up, she judged her, and she can say all she wants in any interviews after this, but she did. We saw it. We saw the way she dismissed her and did not gameplay with her at all.
Do you think that at some point, because okay, I'm trying to look back at their history in this game and say, okay, where do I kind of see where they started going after each other? It really started after Rob had killed Bob, went against, got Bob banished. But the part that, it's one of those things that gets under my skin, is that it seems to have started because Carolyn approached Danielle and said, hey, Rob said this to me. Did he say that to you? And Danielle was like, oh my God, Rob is talking to you, but not to me. I'm coming after you instead of Rob.
And that was Caroline being honest and
She was
trustworthy
trying
to her.
Right. She was trying to
I don't
buddy up
want-
with Danielle.
Danielle, I don't want Rob to take one of us out. Is he playing us?
Yeah. And it
And she
seems
took
like
it as Caroline
it.
was a threat. Because, if Caroline and Rob are going to team up, then I have to take Caroline out? Was her
Yeah.
initial
And there was like a really
reaction
strange
to that?
pecking order that happened. If you look at like when it was the three of them, because at first with Bob was sort of like taking the wheel, right? Like Bob was the leader.
Mm.
Bob gets cut. Now Rob's in. Rob takes leadership of this trio. Danielle does every single thing Rob says. Like,
Bob
even if
sitting
she
up on
doesn't want to, I'm going to do what Rob says because right now it's not the right time. And blah, blah, blah. And she didn't like it. And that's fine. You know what? I wouldn't like it either. But then once Rob was gone, Danielle's like, now I get to be the boss.
But she did the same thing with Caroline too. She still
Exactly.
couldn't get what she wanted. She
Mhm.
couldn't get what she wanted with Caroline either. So, but then
Yep.
she made it like she was this bigger person, just like, oh, I'll give her what she wants.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Jesus,
was
help
frustrating.
me.
It was endlessly frustrating to watch
I have to deal with
happen.
Can I move to a couple of
the
final
other thing-
thoughts?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
my
sorry.
last thing,
I want to
my-
add
my-
something. I didn't get to rant.
this is my second
Oh.
part of my rant.
Oh,
This is my
okay.
second part of my
Christy,
rant.
seal it up.
Was that I did not stay up and watch this last night. I watched it today at work. And God dang it,
Oh,
it
she
made
still
me
eat it.
so mad.
Mhm.
I couldn't even finish it. I was at work and I was about to start cursing. I had to pause it
Yep.
Wait till the end of the day,
Yep.
come home and watch it. And then my son and my husband got to listen to me curse a woman out. I am so mad. I have so many words to
Yep.
say, but I
I woke
cannot
up
say them
mad. I
here.
feel you. I literally woke up like,
I literally
oh.
was going to cry. We had an hour before we were going to record after I saw the ending, and I'm just like,
I
it's
wouldn't
in
have
my
been.
name. I'm disgusted.
I just
Disgusted.
it's just the way it's the long charade, it's the overacting, and then the way she threw her uh, out under the bus is so it was just the whole thing was just so frustrating. But if Dylan or Tom or Ivor or anybody else would have led the pack on this and Danielle would have voted along with them to get her out, I wouldn't have been mad at
It wouldn't,
Danielle for
because
that.
it wouldn't have been icky like this.
Yes, this just felt
They
so
did it because they
ugh.
wouldn't have done it icky.
Yes.
They would have said stuff like, nobody's looking at you, but that's why we think it might be you, because you're playing. So it would have been more complimentary. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but
Brittany
she
tried.
just got it.
Right? Didn't Brittany try? She's like, if you were, because honestly, like you're the obvious choice for a traitor. You were probably the most like what did she say? The most entertaining traitor to watch like ever.
She
David,
knows the people
can
who
we
are the
add
best TV are
something?
the
Can we add
traitors.
something to Christy's graphic? Can you put Christy as a bit peeved, because she has like the most Canadian nice person rant ever. She's like saying, "Gosh, dang it!" and
Because I do in my real life outside of podcasting speak a little bit more like Sierra, so I don't want to do that here.
She's
Because then we'll get in
maintaining
trouble.
some control on the cussing.
There you go.
But
Okay.
I'll let you guys just put it all. fill it
I
all
have
in.
only a really short thing to add.
Do
All
it.
right.
Is I've been watching reality TV for a lot of years. I have seen some true villains. I have seen fake
Yes.
dead grandmothers.
Yes.
I have seen people dump the tribe's rice in the ocean.
Yep.
I have seen people burn hats.
Just this week,
I have seen
Multiple
people
times, right?
intentionally deny people letters from home that they knew they valued. I have seen unbridled arrogance. Ring, ring, if anybody remembers. I have seen some awful stuff. But you know what? A good villain, I love them. And the fact, I rant all the time about tropes not wanting to cast villains. I love villains. This was not villainous. This was just wrong. And that's
Just
all I'm going to
mean.
say.
That's why you
mean.
enjoyed Rob's play, because he's a
Right.
villain who, yeah, exactly. You're spot on, David.
And
Gott.
if I
Mark
end up
that
wanting
down.
Rob back by the end of this, I'll be even madder at her. Okay, that'll be another reason I'll be even madder at her if I want Rob back by the
Damn
end.
you, Danielle.
All right, now, I know Brian has a few more thoughts, but we do have some feedback. So
Well,
when we
I
get
just
that
wanted to
in-
finish
Go
up.
ahead.
I wanted to finish
Finish
up the episode and say, I thought it was great that Gabby picked up there might be Bob and Rob vibes. And
Mhm.
says that after it's over, and I hope that goes somewhere. But the last thing I wanted to ask the group, because I don't know the answer to this. I mean, I think the answer is yes, but I don't know. You know these people better than I do. Is there any possibility Brittany says no to being recruited?
She can't.
No, because then she's killed.
No. She can't in this situation. There
She's
was not a
murdered.
choice. It was.
Oh, this is the
Will-
dungeon, so she will be
Yeah.
killed if she says no.
Yeah, she
But-
So
can't
she
say
doesn't have a
no.
choice.
Even if she did have a choice,
She'd say yes.
she'd say yes if it's Danielle. Of course she would.
And she's probably
Okay.
like, "What is going
And
on?"
because it's
Yes,
easier to
tell me.
win the game as a traitor. We've seen
Absolutely.
it.
Well, I hadn't thought about that because I watched it yesterday, and I've watched some other stuff since. But like, if it was earlier in the game, you think at any point Brittany would have said yes?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That's
definitely.
all I wanna know.
Because you get the knowledge. At the very least, you get to know who is it, right?
Right.
When you want to know
Alright.
so bad.
So we're
we-
going to go into the feedback. David, are you reading the feedback today?
Yeah, we've
All right.
got 3 of them, so I'm going
All
to read
right.
them quickly. Our first one comes from our good friend Mandy.
Mandy.
Wasn't going to read it until someone said it. He says, "Is Alan taking his hairstyle notes from the Who's in Whoville?"
Yes, 1,000%.
I thought it was more Riff Raff and Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I vibe with you, sister.
Ooh,
Yes,
it was
yeah.
riff. It was riff. It was like
Yeah,
go back
at
to
the
our
end.
planet riff. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am your commander.
Mm-hmm.
Tom is so in love with Tom. Yes, it
Sure is.
is. Mandy has 0 words about the round table. I don't know who I want to side with. Then she says, oh my God, could this mean that Brittany gets recruited and then can win? Fingers crossed. Our second email
Yeah.
is again from Mandy.
Because she had some thoughts
Mandy.
now. She had no words, but now she's got some words.
She
Okay,
found the
let's go.
words. And it was only 9 minutes later. She says, follow up after the round table. Mackenzie says the smart thing would be to recruit Dylan and then murder Brittany. Damn, I raised a smart kid. And she's not wrong. That would have been a baller move.
It
That
should have
would've
always
been.
been Brittany.
But Danielle, let's face it, Danielle sucks. She's not going to do it. She's good. She only wants, because like I said, she sucks. She does suck because she's so short-sighted and goes, oh, I'm going to go ahead and recruit Brittany. And then what does Brittany say as she's walking down there? I mean, who is it? It better not be Danielle. Like, wouldn't I be the most obvious choice? Durr. And again, Godoy.
Yep.
Danielle wants her because Danielle is playing a Mean Girls game. And she wants another girl to be with her to be Mean Girls. And
Yeah.
yes, I know they're
think
women,
that
and I
also-
have chastised Ivor, but she
I
wants to be a
do
mean
think
girl.
there's that, but also, in my heart of hearts, I truly believe that the reason why Ms. Danielle Reyes is picking Brittany is because she knows Brittany won't betray her twice.
You're
She
right.
knows she won't do it. She owes me one.
You know
Well-
what? Just for that reason, I hope Danielle does. I mean,
My girl
I'm sorry.
Brittany,
I
my
hope Brittany
pick,
does.
cut her throat.
I hope they vote.
Our
I hope
final
they vote
email-
Danielle out,
our
and
final
Brittany wins the
email-
whole thing.
Our final email comes
Okay, go
from
ahead.
Maggie. And she says,
Maggie.
hi, faithfuls. Damn, Caroline is gone. I really don't want Danielle to win the game. I don't think she has done a good job. I don't think she was very smart to ask Brittany to be a traitor. Brittany didn't think it was a good idea either. Who would you have asked?
Oops,
I
sorry.
feel like I might have asked Dylan or maybe Gabby.
Yeah.
Guess I'm rooting for the faithfuls now, Maggie.
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
Maggie was in the room with us while she wrote that email.
I'll take this first because I want to say I would have asked Dylan for one reason. These dudes think it's 2 girls, right?
Yep.
They
need a guy.
Ivor says they think it's 2 women, right? I would have picked a man, and I probably would have picked Dylan because nobody would. I think he's probably the one everybody suspects is the most faithful.
Yep.
It's the face. He has such this little boy, this lost little boy look on his
Wait.
face when they're at
Little
when
boy
they're at round
twinkle.
trial. No, it's not a twinkle. It's not. A
Hear me
twinkle.
out.
But it's like lost little boy at the round table when mommy and daddy are fighting, and he's like,
Because he's holding back tears. Like he's holding back
Yeah.
tears when he has to vote his friends out. And that is an enduring quality to see
Yeah.
emotion on a man's face. Let's face it.
yeah,
And it doesn't hurt that his face is also cute. He wins all the angles that way. But
Yeah.
hear me out. What if Danielle were to pull like Dolores and then immediately feed her to Tom?
no, because Danielle won't play that way. She's not a good villain,
That's true. Amen to that, sister.
so she
All
would
right,
not say
guys.
that. She would not do that.
We have reached our hour-long limit here. We are going to wrap this up. If you have enjoyed this hour with us, you can like and subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or listen to us wherever your favorite podcasts are found. You can find us on the Jay and Jack Whole Enchilada thread. We're going to have a slight change to this coming week's schedule, and we will be here at the same time, but on Saturday. If you
Oh.
are a fan of Survivor,
must
we are
remember.
recording our coverage of Australia's Survivor immediately following this episode. And we will be returning in about 15 minutes' time to cover the first 3 episodes of Australia's Survivor Season 12, Brawn versus Brain 2. And I want to thank my co-hosts. It was a lively discussion tonight, a few rants I enjoyed. I'd like to thank all of those out there who have felt like their voices have gone unheard. There's always room at our table for the quiet and the quirky and those who feel like they just don't belong, because you actually do. We're going to see you next week. And until then, stay warm, stay faithful. Adios.
Bye.
Anybody but Danielle, y'all. Anybody but Danielle.